Hey everyone, my name is Alvin and I'm a mechanical engineer on the design for service and repair team here at Microsoft. Today, I'll be guiding you through the full teardown and reassembly of the Microsoft Surface Laptop 13-inch. We'll cover every major component step by step so you can confidently perform repairs or replacements as needed. This may look familiar compared to previous generations, but the team has made many improvements for repair, which I will highlight throughout the entire video. Please note that I'm only going to demonstrate how to tear down, reassemble, and access the replaceable components at a high level. Before we begin, please review the detailed service guide and follow the safety guidelines available on the Microsoft Learn portal. Additionally, always work on a soft ESD-safe surface, wear an anti-static wrist strap, and have all recommended tools ready. Today, you'll be needing calipers with a resolution and accuracy of 0.01 millimeters, new plastic guitar picks, a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver, an adjustable or fixed Torx screwdriver compatible with a 5IP Torx Plus bit that can be set to 1.2 kg 4 cm, plastic ESD-safe tweezers, a plastic ESD-safe spudger, a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver, a black marker, a 0.05 millimeter thick feeler gauge, 0.3 millimeter thick feeler gauge, 0.2 millimeter thick feeler gauge, and a 0.25 millimeter thick feeler gauge. Also, remove any jewelry like watches or rings and tie back any long hair. With that, we're going to get started. First, ensure the battery is fully discharged and unplugged. Flip the device over and orient the device so the hinge is further away from you. We're going to get started by removing the 4 feet with a plastic guitar pick. Begin by gently inserting the pick between the foot and the D-bucket. You're going to want to pry the foot up, working from different angles if needed, and please don't use a metal tool here. Repeat this process for all 4 feet, setting them aside for reuse if they're undamaged. Now with the feet off, we'll work to remove the C-cover with a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver. Please press firmly to avoid potentially stripping the head of the screw. We also recommend that you count screws and place them away from your device as you go along. This is to ensure that there will be no loose screws remaining inside your device when it comes time to reassemble it. Now with the screws out, we can gently flip the device around and open the display cover to the maximum angle. Now to get started on removing the C-cover keyboard, we're going to use a black marker and ruler to first draw a line 3 millimeters away from the edge of 2 new guitar picks to prevent inserting the guitar pick too deep while removing the C-cover keyboard. With your device flat on an ESD-safe surface for the remainder of this removal process, we're going to firmly but carefully insert a new plastic guitar pick between the C-cover keyboard and the D-bucket, at least 5 millimeters below the top right corner. This requires some force and patience, and please do not use a metal tool and only use the specified plastic tool. Firmly but carefully, wiggle the guitar pick up and down until you hear a popping sound to disengage the nearby snap. And with the snap disengaged, there will be some space between the C-cover and D-bucket to gently slide the guitar pick along the right edge of the device. Repeat this process until all 5 snaps on the right edge are disengaged. Stop when you reach the bottom corner of the device. It is very important to take your time during this step. Now without inserting the guitar pick beyond the 3 millimeter mark line, leave it in the bottom right corner to ensure the covers stay separated. With one hand, very gently lift and hold the top right corner of the C-cover. With your other hand, using another new guitar pick, carefully disengage the snaps along the top edge of the C-cover keyboard, starting from the top right and moving to the top left. As you go along, once the nearby snap is disengaged, there will be some space between the C-cover and the D-bucket, allowing you to gently slide the guitar pick along the top edge. Once again, do not use a metal tool and only use the specified plastic tool. Firmly but carefully, insert the plastic guitar pick between the C-cover and the D-bucket 5 millimeters below the top left corner. Similar to what we did on the right side, firmly but carefully wiggle the guitar pick up and down until you hear a popping sound to disengage the nearby snap. With the snap disengaged, there will be some space between the C-cover and the D-bucket to gently slide the guitar pick along the left edge of the device. We're going to repeat this process until all 5 snaps on the left edge are disengaged. Stop when you reach the bottom corner of the device. Once again, it is very important to take your time during this step. Now with both hands, very gently wiggle and tilt the bottom of the C-cover keyboard upwards toward the display cover and away from the battery to separate it from the D-bucket. We're going to use a plastic guitar pick to disengage the Trackpad FPC buckle. Now with the buckle disengaged, disconnect the Trackpad FPC and place the C cover on an ESD-safe soft surface for reuse. Now with the C cover keyboard removed, we're going to first carefully inspect and count all 23 snaps and hooks on the C cover and the D bucket. There's 7 at the top, 5 on the left, 5 on the right, and 6 on the bottom. If there are any missing or cracked snaps on the C cover, it cannot be reused. And if there are any missing or cracked hooks on the D bucket, it cannot be reused. For the next step, we're going to work on removing the trackpad. If you're replacing the trackpad and not just reusing it, please first download the latest STT and follow the pre-installation touchpad repair setup workflow. Once again, these detailed instructions can be found on the Microsoft Learn portal. To get started on removing the trackpad from the C cover keyboard, we're going to use an ESD-safe plastic spudger. We're going to start by disengaging the 4 FPC buckles and removing the 2 grounding tapes on the trackpad. And with your fingers, gently disconnect the 4 FPCs connected to the trackpad. Please place the trackpad FPC gently aside on an ESD-safe surface for reuse during reassembly if it is not damaged. If you are reusing your C cover keyboard, be sure to use isopropyl alcohol and cleaning swabs to clean any adhesive remaining from the 2 grounding tapes. I will not be demonstrating this or any future cleaning steps for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. For the next step, we're going to use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver. We're going to work to remove the 7 screws holding the trackpad to the C cover keyboard. Be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws removed to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. Now with those screws removed, with your hand, remove the trackpad subassembly from the C cover keyboard. Now with the trackpad removed, we're going to use metal ESD-safe tweezers to remove the black shims from the C cover and use isopropyl alcohol and cleaning swabs to clean any adhesive remaining. Once again, I will not be demonstrating this or any future cleaning steps for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. Please refer to the detailed service guide instructions on the Microsoft Learn portal for more information. Now with the trackpad removed, we can move forward with the disassembly of the device. At this point, the battery itself is exposed, so make sure that at any point from here on out, please make sure you're not touching or pressing on the battery in any way. From here, let's remove the SSD to ensure power is no longer flowing through the system. Now to get started on removing the SSD, we're going to use plastic ESD-safe tweezers. We're going to remove the conductive tape on top of the SSD. All these types of tapes, foams, and any non-reusable collateral material you remove during the disassembly of this device will also come in your new replacement kits. Now with the 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver, remove the 5IP screw holding down the SSD. Once again, when removing any screws, be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws removed to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. The team has made efforts to include wayfinding artwork for every relevant screw to help locate them for your convenience, but be sure to count and keep track of your screws before moving forward. Now with the screw removed, with your fingers, gently wiggle and lift the SSD out of the PCBA connector at around a 15-degree angle. Now with plastic ESD-safe tweezers, remove the thermal pad on the D bucket. Now with the thermal pad removed, use isopropyl alcohol and cleaning swabs to clean any adhesive remaining from the thermal pad and also on the SSD connector on the PCBA. Since we now have access to the many replaceable internal components of the device, we can really go into easily repairing a variety of different components, such as the speaker, the battery, the USB-C, the audio jack, the USB-A, the AB cover, or fan, depending on what you need. In fact, early in the mechanical design phases, we made it a big priority to enable repair for issues we saw that most often impacted your experience. We also wanted to make that repair process as easy as possible, so you could go back to enjoying your device as soon as possible. Big thanks to the great work done by the various teams to make this a reality. So although we can easily repair a variety of different components now at this point, today we'll start with the battery. If you're replacing the battery and not just reusing it, please first download the latest SDT version and follow the pre-installation battery repair setup workflow. Once again, the detailed instructions can be found on the Microsoft Learn portal. To start with removing the battery, we're going to use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to remove the 2 screws holding down the battery connector. Be very careful as you are near the battery, and once again, be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Now with those 2 screws removed, with an ESD-safe plastic spudger, we're going to gently disconnect the battery connector from the PCBA. Once again, do not use a metal tool for that and only use the specified plastic tool. Now with the 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver, we're going to remove the 9 screws around the perimeter of the battery. And as we remove these screws, to prevent the device from potentially tipping over, we're going to tilt the display cover so that it is less than 75 degrees open. Once again, be very careful as we're very near the battery, and be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Now with those screws removed, with your hands only touching the frame of the battery and not the cell itself, we're going to gently and carefully lift the battery frame away from the D-bucket. Now we're going to place the battery in a spot where it cannot be accidentally contacted or damaged, and when replacing the battery, be sure to dispose of the old battery according to local laws. Now with the battery removed, we're going to move on to removing the speakers. So with your fingers and plastic ESD-safe tweezers, we're going to gently disconnect the right speaker connector from the PCBA and remove the right speaker. Now to remove the left speaker, we're going to need to first disconnect the display FPC, as the speaker connector is underneath it. First, disengage the buckle on the display FPC. Now, with your fingers and plastic ESD-safe tweezers, we're going to gently disconnect the left speaker connector from the PCBA and the display FPC. And with your fingers and plastic ESD-safe tweezers, gently route the left speaker connector cable out of the cable groove and gently remove the left speaker. Now we'll move forward by removing the USB-C. So with plastic ESD-safe tweezers, carefully remove the conductive tape on top of the USB-C connectors. Once again, all of these types of foams, tapes, and any non-reusable collateral material you remove during the disassembly of this device will also come in your new replacement kits. Once again, I will not be demonstrating this or any future cleaning steps for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. Now with the 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver, we're going to remove the 3 5IP screws holding down the USB-C bracket and remove the bracket. Once again, be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver. Now with the bracket removed, using an ESD-safe plastic spudger, we're going to disconnect the USB-C FPC from the PCBA. Now with the FPC disconnected, we're going to use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to remove the 1 3IP screw and remove the USB-C flex. Now we're going to move forward by disassembling the fan. So using plastic ESD-safe tweezers and your fingers, remove the tape on top of the fan. Once again, all these types of tapes, foams, and any non-reusable collateral material you remove during the disassembly of this device will also come in your new replacement kits. Now, using an ESD-safe plastic spudger, disconnect the 2 antenna cables from the PCBA. Now with the 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver, we're going to remove the 3 3IP screws holding the fan down to the D-bucket. Once again, please keep track and count the number of screws removed to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. Now, using a plastic ESD-safe spudger, disengage the buckle holding the fan FPC to the PCBA and disconnect the FPC. With your hands, remove the fan and be mindful of the routed cables. Use isopropyl alcohol and cleaning swabs to clean any adhesive remaining from the tape on the thermal module. Once again, I will not be demonstrating this or any future cleaning steps for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. Moving on to removing the thermal module, with the plastic ESD-safe spudger, we're going to firmly pry up on the shield lid from the corner and around the entire perimeter to remove it. Now to continue removing the thermal module, we're going to use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to slightly peel back the tape covering one of the thermal module screws in the top left. Now, using a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver, we're going to remove the screws in the labeled reverse order on the thermal module, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Once again, be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Now with all 5 screws removed, with your fingers, gently and slowly wiggle the left side of the thermal module away from the PCBA to remove it. After removing the thermal module, you're going to use a cotton swab with isopropyl alcohol to clean any adhesive remaining on the PCBA. Once again, I will not be demonstrating this or any future cleaning steps for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. Now moving forward in removing the USB-A and audio jack component, we're going to use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to remove the 3 screws holding down the bracket and remove it with your fingers. Be careful of the routed cables. When removing the bracket, please note that you will need to use sufficient force to overcome the adhesive holding it down. Now with plastic ESD-safe tweezers, we're going to remove the tape on top of the connector. If the AB cover display and thermal module are still attached, be careful not to pinch any of the cables. Once again, all of these types of tapes, foams, and any non-reusable collateral material you remove during the disassembly of this device will also come in your new replacement kits. Now with the plastic ESD-safe spudger, disengage the buckle holding down the USB-A and audio jack FPC. With plastic ESD-safe tweezers, disconnect the USB-A and audio jack FPC. Now, with a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver, remove the one 3IP screw holding down the USB-A and audio jack board. Now with the screw removed, with your fingers and a plastic ESD-safe spudger, wiggle and lift up on the USB-A and audio jack board to remove it. Now we're going to get started on removing the AB cover display. If you're replacing the AB cover display and not just reusing it, please first download the latest SDT version and follow the pre-installation AB cover display repair setup workflow. Once again, these detailed instructions can be found on the Microsoft Learn portal. To get started, use a plastic ESD-safe spudger and gently lift the top display cable upwards and use your fingers to remove the tape. Once again, all of these non-reusable collateral material you remove during the disassembly of this device will also come in your new replacement kits. When peeling back the tape, if the display connector does not disconnect, use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to disengage the buckle on the PCBA and then gently disconnect the cable with your fingers. Now to remove the screws holding down the display cover, first adjust the display to about 90 degrees and use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to remove the 4 5IP screws on the 2 hinges. Be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws removed to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. Now with those 4 screws removed, using both hands, gently wiggle and remove the AB cover display from the D bucket. Now with the AB cover display removed, we're going to work on removing the motherboard. If you're reusing the motherboard, please follow the detailed instructions in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal for cleaning any of the leftover thermal pad, grease, or adhesive left. To get started on removing the motherboard, we're going to use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to disengage the USB-A and audio jack buckle on the PCBA and disconnect the FPC. Once again, since we're working on the motherboard, do not use a metal tool and only use the specified plastic tool. Now to continue removing the motherboard, using a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver, remove the 7 3IP screws on the PCBA holding it to the D bucket. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws removed to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. The team has actually made efforts to include wayfinding artwork for every relevant screw to help locate them for your convenience, but be sure to still count and keep track of your screws before moving forward. Now with those 7 screws removed, using your fingers, gently lift up the PCBA from the left side to remove it from the D bucket. Now with the PCBA removed, we can disassemble the D bucket. With your fingers, gently peel and remove the USB-A and audio jack FPC from the D bucket. Now to remove the FPC later, we're going to gently peel and remove the aluminum foil and the foams on top of the USB-A and audio jack FPC. If you're reusing your D bucket, make sure to use isopropyl alcohol and cleaning swabs to clean any adhesive remaining on the USB-A and audio jack FPC. And with that, we're done with the disassembly portion of the new Microsoft Surface Laptop 13-inch. I just want to take a second here to recognize the amazing work the cross-functional team has done to make this device as repairable as it is now. Throughout the disassembly, you may have noticed that all of the components were all easily removable without the use of any hidden adhesives or glues. That will also remain true as we continue on to reassemble the entire device. Now we will begin reassembly of the device with a brand new D-bucket enclosure. This will be found in your replacement kit. To begin reassembly of your device, let's start with the PCBA. Gently place the PCBA into the D-bucket, being careful not to scratch it against the connectors. Now that your PCBA is inside your D-bucket, let's begin screwing it down. We will use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to lightly tighten the 7 screws. When we're reassembling, always count your screws, especially those near the battery pack. Also, do not reuse any old screws, as the new screws that come in your replacement kits come with the necessary new thread locker on them. When tightening the screws for reassembly, tighten them until they are snug and seated, and then only tighten them an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees, to avoid stripping the threads. Be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. And once again, always keep track and count the number of screws to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. Now that your PCBA is screwed down to the D-bucket, use a feeler gauge or calipers to ensure the gap between the SSD receptacle on the PCBA and the grounding foam on the D-bucket is between 0.3 millimeters and 1.2 millimeters. Now we're going to gently place the USB-A and audio jack daughter board into the D-bucket and ensure the board is flat and the holes are fully aligned with the positioning pin. Now we're going to use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the one screw. Once again, after the screw is snug and seated, only tighten the screws an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees, to avoid stripping the threads. Reusing the USB-A and audio jack FPC, align the dotted white lines to apply the new aluminum foil and the foams. Before pressing and installing the USB-A and audio jack FPC subassembly onto the D-bucket, we're going to connect the ends of the FPC to the USB-A and audio jack daughter board connector and the PCBA connector. Use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to press the buckle on both connectors closed. Now we can install the FPC subassembly to the D-bucket by pressing down firmly on the foil for 30 seconds. Now, use a plastic ESD-safe tweezer to remove the liner on the SSD thermal pad. To finish reassembly of your new PCBA, make sure to download the latest SDT version and follow the post-installation motherboard repair validation workflow detailed in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. Now to continue reassembly of your device, we're going to move on to the AB cover display. To assemble your new AB cover display, we're going to gently line up the cover to the D-bucket and ensure the pins on the D-bucket are aligned to the holes on the hinges. We're going to use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to lightly install one screw per hinge. Be sure to hold the AB cover display with one hand so the device does not fall over. Now to check on the seating of your AB cover display, we're going to close the display, but be careful not to clamp down on any wires. Now, since there are only 2 screws holding down the hinges, we can adjust the positioning of the AB cover display while the screws are still not fully seated to ensure the display step to the D-bucket is within 0.25 millimeters and 0.3 millimeters on both sides. We can check this with a feeler gauge. And we also want to check that the AB cover display gap to the D-bucket is within 0.05 millimeters and 0.25 millimeters on both sides before moving on to the next step. If it doesn't sit perfectly symmetrical, you may need to adjust the alignment of the display through the hinge screws. Now we're going to open up the AB cover display again, less than 90 degrees to ensure the device does not fall over. Now we'll use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver again to install the remaining screw on each hinge. Tighten all 4 hinge screws until they are snug and seated, and then only tighten the screws an additional 1/4 turn, which is about 90 degrees, to avoid stripping the threads. Be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws to ensure there are no extra screws in the area. Since we're installing a new AB cover display subassembly in this video and not reusing the old one, use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to remove the liner underneath the top display cable. With the liner removed, gently install the top AB cover display cable to the connector on the PCBA and use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to ensure the buckle is closed. To make it easier for connecting the other display cables, let's reassemble the USB ports, fan, and thermal module first before completing the reassembly of your AB cover display. Now to complete reassembly of your USB-A and audio jack, we're going to use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to line up and install the absorber to the edge of the USB connector. Use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to firmly press the absorber down for 30 seconds. Now we're going to assemble the reusable USB-A and audio jack bracket and ensure the holes on the bracket are aligned to the screw holes on the daughter board. Now with the bracket in place, use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 3 screws. After the screw is snug and seated, only tighten the screws an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees. Now with the bracket installed, we're going to use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to line up and install the USB-A and audio jack foil to the edge of the USB connector. Be sure not to cover any screws. With the foil pressed down firmly, now use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to line up and install the gasket to the edge of the bracket. Once again, be sure not to cover any screws, and be sure to press down firmly. Now we're going to install the USB-C flex into the side hole of the D-bucket and align the screw holes. Use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to connect the USB-C FPC to the connector on the PCBA. Ensure the FPC is completely flat and the USB-C subassembly is not tilted upwards. Use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 1 screw. Now with the USB-C FPC attached, we're going to assemble the reusable USB-C bracket and ensure the holes on the bracket are aligned to the screw holes on the hinge and the D-bucket. Be sure to route any cables away if they're in the way. Use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 3 screws. Now with the USB-C bracket tightened down, use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to line up and install the tape to the edge of the D-bucket. Be sure not to cover any screws and firmly press the tape down for 30 seconds. Now we'll continue reassembly of your device by installing a thermal module. Today we'll be using a new thermal module. We will gently install the thermal module onto the PCBA and make sure that the holes on the thermal module line up with the pins on the D-bucket and the PCBA. Always be sure to route any cables, connectors, and tapes away. Now use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to install and lightly tighten the 5 new screws. There are 4 screws that are labeled in the correct order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th screw is in the top left. Once all 5 screws are snug and seated, tighten them an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees, to avoid stripping the threads. Use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to ensure the tape on the USB-A and audio jack subassembly covers the top left thermal module screw. Now we're going to finish reassembly of your new thermal module by gently installing the shield on top of the thermal module and use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to ensure the outer frame is assembled properly to the PCBA. Moving forward in the reassembly of your device, we're going to install the fan. Gently install the fan into the D-bucket and ensure the pins on the D-bucket align to the holes on the fan. Once again, be sure to route any cables away. Use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 3 screws. After the screw is snug and seated, only tighten the screws an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees. Use a plastic ESD-safe tweezer to connect the fan FPC into the PCBA connector. Once the FPC is connected to the connector, use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to close the fan FPC buckle on the PCBA connector. Now coming back to installing the AB cover display cables, we will want to route the 2 antenna cables, but ensure the AB cover display cable is to the left of the 2 antenna cables and not on top of them. Now we can reconnect the 2 antenna cables from the AB cover display to the connectors on the PCBA. Be sure to use a plastic ESD-safe spudger and plastic ESD-safe tweezers to ensure they are fully seated in the ridges on the PCBA and connected to the receptacles on the PCBA. With the antenna cables connected to the PCBA, install the tape to secure the routing and be sure to firmly press it down for 30 seconds. Now moving over to the top display cable connector, we're going to use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to align the display connector tape to the edge of the thermal module shield and the plastic hinge on the D-bucket. Now use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to firmly secure the display connector tape into the gap and the crease. Now use plastic ESD-safe tweezers to install the display connector foam aligned with the USB-C bracket. Now moving on to the speakers before finishing the AB cover display assembly, we're going to gently install the right speaker onto the D-bucket and ensure the positioning pins are aligned with the holes on the speaker. Gently route the right speaker connector through the ridge on the D-bucket to the receptacle on the motherboard and use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to ensure it is fully seated. Now moving on to the left speaker, gently install it onto the D bucket and ensure the positioning pins are aligned with the holes on the speaker. Gently route the left speaker connector through the ridges on the D bucket to the receptacle on the motherboard and use a plastic ESD-safe spudger again to ensure it is fully seated. Now we're going to finish assembly of the AB cover display by rerouting the left display cable through the ridges on the D bucket, and once again, check that it is routed properly by checking the schematic in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. Now, use a plastic ESD-safe spudger to close the buckle on the display connector to the PCBA. With the AB cover display fully reassembled, make sure to download the latest SDT version and follow the post-installation AB cover display repair validation workflow detailed in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. Before we install a new battery into the device, ensure that all screws are accounted for and there are no floating screws near the D bucket where the battery will be installed. Also, inspect the D bucket for any loose articles for foreign debris that may be present. When installing a new battery from the replacement kit, gently use both hands to pick up the battery by the left and right lifting tabs only. Only handle the new battery with the plastic tabs that come attached to the new battery. Bending, twisting, or impacting the battery may damage it, damage the device, or result in severe personal injury or property damage, so always use two hands when handling the battery. Gently use both hands to lower the battery into the D bucket and ensure the positioning pin aligns to the hole on the battery. Now with the battery seated in the D bucket, use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 9 screws. After the screw is snug and seated, only tighten the screws an additional 1/8 turn, which is about 45 degrees, to avoid stripping the threads. Once again, be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping, especially because we are so near the battery. Additionally, please keep track and count the number of screws to ensure there are no extra screws, especially in this area. Do not over-tighten the screws on the battery frame. If the frame is cracked, the battery cannot be used. Now before we connect the battery with the two 3IP screws, we can remove the liner since the frame is fully secured. Now, use a 3IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 2 screws. To finish reassembly of your new battery, make sure to download the latest SDT version and follow the post-installation battery repair validation workflow detailed in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. Moving on with the reassembly of your device, gently install the SSD into the receptacle on the PCBA at about a 15-degree angle. When doing this, ensure the foam is not pinched between the receptacle and the pins on the SSD. Now, use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to tighten the 1 screw. Use plastic ESD-safe tweezers now to gently install the tape on top of the SSD and the receptacle on the PCBA. Please press firmly for about 30 seconds, but be sure to avoid the battery area. To get started on the reassembly of your trackpad or your C-cover, we're going to first attach alignment paper to the 4 corners of the trackpad and press the corners down firmly. Be sure that when you're doing this, ensure the alignment paper does not fold between the trackpad and the trackpad bracket. Now with calipers, we're going to measure the height between the top surface of the trackpad glass and the bottom surface of the trackpad bracket at each of the 5 shim locations. Then, we will measure the height between the top and bottom surface at each of the 5 shim locations as well. And then we will use the difference between those 2 measurements at each shim location to determine which shim to install onto the C-cover at each location, following the detailed calculations shown in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. I will not be demonstrating this for time's sake and for the purpose of this high-level overview. After following the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal and calculating the appropriate shim, firmly press them in at all 5 locations. Now we will gently insert the trackpad subassembly into the C-cover and reassemble the 7 5IP screws with the 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver set to 1.2 kg 4 cm. Be sure to press down firmly with the screwdriver to avoid any chance for screw stripping. With this specific torque set screwdriver I'm using today, there will be a click when the screw is tightened to the specific torque, noting when you should stop tightening the screw. Now with the screws installed, turn your C-cover keyboard around and with your fingers, carefully and gently remove the 4 alignment papers. Be sure that the entire alignment paper piece is completely removed and does not remain stuck between the C-cover keyboard and the trackpad subassembly. Now with your trackpad installed into your C-cover keyboard, use a 0.2mm feeler gauge around the entire perimeter of the trackpad subassembly to ensure it is never above the C-cover surface at any point. Additionally, click the two bottom corners to check if the trackpad gets stuck against the C-cover surface. If it does, please remove the shims, clean the surface, and redo the shim selection process before proceeding to the next step. Now, gently flip your C-cover keyboard around and install two new grounding tapes. Be sure to firmly press the grounding tapes down for about 30 seconds each. Now with your fingers and plastic ESD-safe tweezers, carefully reconnect the 4 FPCs to the trackpad. We will also be reusing our trackpad FPC from before. You can see on the trackpad FPC that it is labeled TP for the side connecting to the trackpad and MB for the side that connects to the motherboard. With the 4 FPCs connected, use an ESD-safe plastic spudger to engage the 4 FPC buckles. Now with plastic ESD-safe tweezers, remove the liner on the new thermal pad attached to your new C-cover keyboard that came on the replacement kit. With that finished, make sure to download the latest STT version and follow the post-installation touchpad repair validation workflow detailed in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal. Before continuing with the reassembly of your device and attaching the C-cover keyboard to the D bucket and the rest of your device, inspect the device internals to ensure no screws, foams, tape, or other foreign material has been misplaced inside your device. Now we will hold the C-cover with one hand and carefully install the FPC onto the motherboard receptacle. After the FPC is fully seated, use a plastic guitar pick to close the buckle on the PCBA receptacle. Now, with the buckle on the PCBA connector fully closed, gently lower the C-cover onto the D bucket and slowly press down on the snaps around the entire perimeter of the C-cover. Now with the snaps engaged, gently shake the device and listen carefully for any rattling sounds. If there are any, please follow the detailed instructions in the service guide on the Microsoft Learn portal to assess for any loose connectors, screws, snaps, hooks, etc. Now we will close the AB cover display and turn the device over and use a 5IP Torx Plus screwdriver to install the 4 screws. Now to finish repair of your device, we can now install 4 new feet provided in your replacement kit or reuse the ones that came with your original device. To install these feet, carefully align the grooves with the long hole on the D bucket and press the foot down vertically until it is completely flat to the D bucket. Good job! With this, we have completed both the disassembly and reassembly of all spare parts that are available for repair on the new Microsoft Surface Laptop 13-inch. Thank you for your time, and I really hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, please find more detailed instructions on the service guide available on the Microsoft Learn portal.